Welcome to This Is My Architecture. I'm Aarthi from AWS, and joining me in New York today are Brian and Justin from Magellan Health. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So why don't we start with, what does Magellan Health do?
Sure. Magellan Health focuses on behavioral, social, and physical care to provide personalized and cost-effective solutions for our members.
Okay. So looking at the board here, I see a lot of security services and automation. Interesting to hear what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. So at Magellan Health, our mantra is code is king. So everything we do is driven through a code pipeline to use committing code to code Git repositories, and then using CodeBuild to execute that code, ultimately generating our CloudFormation templates. And then our CloudFormation templates are going to control all of our accounts to set up our AWS config rules, our CloudTrail, and that's going to feed in some rules to our CloudWatch events to talk about what events we're listening to from an infrastructure perspective. And what this really does is sets up all of our accounts to a known good state that we can then start to reason about as our development teams interact with them.
Okay, so this is running in a centralized account?
Correct. This is a management account, and we have roughly 50 accounts for our developers, and that's going to be growing rapidly throughout the year.
Great. So I see a bunch of Lambda functions here, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens post this CloudWatch stage here? What are these Lambda functions doing?
Sure. So as Justin mentioned, CodePipeline pushes these out to the central account. And we have three main functions for the security. And the first is GeoMatch Lambda.
Okay.
And the purpose of the geo restriction is to ensure that any region that the security team deems is unsafe, it will restrict them from accessing our sites.
Okay. What about the second Lambda function?
So the second Lambda function is more of what I would call a registration or association function. And the purpose of that is once we receive a CloudWatch event that a new resource has been instantiated and spun up, we check to make sure, is this resource protected? And so when that event happens, let's take ALB or an ELB, for instance. It will trigger the registration function, and the registration function will do an assume role on the account that it is that the event came from, and it will check out to see, is this a new resource or was the resource updated? And based on that, it'll check out to see, hey, is this resource already protected by the WAF? In this case, it would be the regional WAF.
Okay.
And if it's not, it makes sure to add it. And conversely, if we get a CloudWatch event that a resource was deprecated, it will then hit the registration Lambda to check the WAF, and the WAF will say, hey, this resource was deprecated. Let's remove it from the list so that we're accurately depicting what is protected and what is not.
Okay. So this part here, so I'm assuming this is for any objects inside the VPC, or do you guys focus on specific objects?
Sure. So and the regional WAF would be anything inside the VPC, so an Elastic IP, an ALB, an ELB. We also do the APIs and the CloudFront distros.
Okay.
And so if those are spun up, we make sure they are registered to the global WAF.
Okay.
And likewise, we want to make sure they're also added as a shield protection as well.
So we talked about the Lambda function that does registration. What's the last one do?
Sure. The last one is more of a custom rules applicator. And so when we were rolling this framework out, we realized there are certain instances when application teams need to be able to have certain exceptions, whether it's a regex match or a string match, for instance, on like a URI. Mm-hmm. And since the cloud migration team is actually just Justin and myself, we don't have the time to manage all these rules. And so we built a custom rules applicator that allows the security team to actually create rules for restrictions. And the nice thing about these all being in code is it allows us to ensure that there's an audit trail. Who created the exception? Why was it created? Was it approved through code commit?
Okay.
So it's a nice way to isolate that and delegate that responsibility.
Okay, so that's when like it sets up a trigger for SNS notification to alert your security team?
Sure. So once those rules are in place, whether it's a geo restriction or one of the custom rules, anytime any activity happens in Whopper Shield, if there's an event that happens, it will then trigger an SNS notification, which then alerts the security team so that they can act appropriately.
How long does that process take, approximately?
Sub-second.
Okay, that's great. This is an interesting architecture, and you also mentioned that it's a two-people team. How long did it take for you, both of you, to build this entire architecture?
Yeah, so we had roughly a week to transition from a third-party solution to this for cost and automation purposes.
And one last question. Why not use the AWS Firewalls Manager?
Yeah, we asked ourselves that too. Actually, when we came up with this, the service wasn't available to us yet. So we needed to find a way to move quickly. And so we did what we had to do.
OK. Thank you for sharing this architecture. I'm sure a lot of our viewers who are trying to build a web application security framework, especially across multiple accounts, can benefit from this kind of architecture. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you for watching This Is My Architecture.